Oh boy, here we go again with another insane take from the good old Jim Sterling. Imagine having your entire life involved in video game review, but failing, so you begin to start talking entirely about the political subtext and undertones of video games and their stories, painting all of the gaming industry as racist, sexist, bigoted, horrible human beings, just so you can get yourself noticed and generate a few views. Well, for those of you who don't know, that's what Jim here does. Jim likes to pretend that they're an actual video game enthusiast, when in reality, Jim couldn't make it as a real games reviewer. So Jim had to come up with a new plan. The new plan is to hate post about video games and how evil all gamers are. Supposedly, we're all a cult that are bonded together in our hatred for minorities of all kinds. Not only does Jim act like Jim is better than gamers, the plebs that we are, Jim is above even fellow game journalists, wearing the fact that most devs won't send Jim shit for review copies because they believe Jim just to be too truthful of how bad their game really is, that Jim won't just review the game with its high praises such as the likes of Kotaku. Jim thinks that they're the one-person army taking a moral stand against the bigotry of this horrid industry and is somehow winning. Did you like the recent Zelda games? Then clearly you're an uncultured piece of garbage, incapable of seeing the true simplicity of the game such as Jim did. Did you play Hogwarts Legacy? Well, Jim here saw through the transphobic and racist undertones of creating a game set in a world that was created by such a horrid transphobic like J.K. Rowling. Do you want to play Starfield? Well, guess what? Jim sees right through those horrible transphobic bigots over at Bethesda, just as they did with Hogwarts Legacy. Now keep in mind, this doesn't make you an awful person, according to Jim, that you want to play these games. You're just not an ally, or someone that Jim can feel safe around. Jim thinks that you're out to hurt the modern-day prophet that is Jim Sterling. Here simply to bring light to the dark corners of this moralist art form. You may not be evil, but you're far, far below Jim and Jim's ability to see the wrong in seemingly every situation. Jim understands the nuance and complexities of modern bigotry. Jim is your moral beacon of hope in the cruel, cruel, dark world of gaming. So now that you fully understand who Jim is, take it away, Jim.
Who's looking forward to that there Starfield? I am. I love video games. Hi there. I'm James Stephanie Sterling and I love video games. Do you love video games? That's awesome because I love video games too.
No, you don't. You hate games, Jim. Just be honest with us and yourself. You hate video games. At least if you were able to admit that all you do is hate post about video games to generate views, I'd have some form or level of respect for you at least. But pretending to be this ultra-critical reviewer who's far above their competition and peers, that's just, you're so morally superior to everyone else, is a goddamn joke. Just admit you like to shitpost about video games to get yourself clicks, and let's move on. Side note, why do you always do these super cringe, weird fucking intros after your musical intro that you have at the start of every video? You look like you're freshly escaped out of a mental institution every time for no reason. Is it supposed to be funny or something? Am I missing the point here? Or are you just missing any form of a personality?
We're going to talk about a video game which I love to do, and it's a video game that I'm just sure I'm going to love because it's a video game and I love video games. This isn't about Zenimax and Bethesda mistreating a worker. It's just about video games.
Okay, so before we go any further into this, I have to explain a little backstory behind all of this. Jim here is referring to a recently released video by an ex-Zenimax employee. Now, this company is supposedly a contracted company or owned by Bethesda. I don't know the relationship entirely, but they do work on the Elder Scrolls Online game. The employee in question released a full video of recordings that claim they're examples of workplace discrimination that took place the moment that they came out as trans. Unfortunately, the video is 4 hours long, so I don't really have the time nor patience to be covering that video inside of a Jim Sterling video, and grabbing clips or examples of why the entire accusation is bullshit during this Jim Sterling video would just make this video way too long. I will, however, be doing a live reaction on Twitch to the original video, which will most likely, hopefully, be up when I release this video. So if you want my thoughts and a breakdown on the original employees video, then go ahead, check out the channel. I'm sure it'll be up, or will be up soon at least. But in the meantime, you can watch and listen to the video that the worker released yourself and see that it's absolute bullshit what is being claimed here. The worker wasn't discriminated against. The company bent over backwards for this worker, and all they did was cry and complain and throw fits nonstop. Then Bethesda offered a deal to pay for their surgeries if they leave the company and agree not to take any discrimination action. Many people are pointing this out as an admission of guilt. However, most likely, these were lawyers making these deals and decisions to hopefully minimize damage, because the facts of these issues clearly don't matter in the modern, chronically online age. People like Jim Sterling are going to watch 10-20 minutes of this video and then claim that Bethesda and Zenimax were horribly discriminating against this trans employee, and that's what will spread across the internet like wildfire. The fact that the person was given every benefit possible while they were at that company won't matter. The fact that the company attempted to work with the employee time and time again doesn't matter. The fact that this employee was given every opportunity to take time off and deal with their personal issues or medical issues while undergoing transition doesn't matter. All that matters is a trans person cried, and therefore Bethesda bad. So keep that in mind when you watch the rest of this video.
I worked at Zenimax Online Studios from October of 2018 to the beginning of May 2022. In January of 2021, my boss outed me as a trans woman. Eventually it led to ending my career there.
I know, I said I wasn't going to dedicate this entire Jim Sterling video to disputing these bullshit claims of this ex-Zenimax employee, but this is exactly that, absolute bullshit. Yes, it is true that the manager they were under, in a way, accidentally outed the person. Keep in mind, this was COVID era, and they were all working from home using things like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or some type of in-house software that they were using. So, apparently, company profile pictures had been changed or were going to change or something along those lines. And the manager accidentally showed the new pictures, one of which was of the new employee, now looking differently, on the manager's screen while screen sharing doing some type of small business-related meeting. This was, as far as I can tell, an accident. Let's be realistic. We have seen how many stories of people failing horribly at Zoom calls while they are working from home. Right? It's not exactly a far stretch to think that this was entirely on accident with absolutely no malice or hatred behind it, or even intention. Not only that, but all they did was show a picture. That doesn't out you as trans. You look different, right? That's it. You have the ability to deny or not answer questions from your fellow employees, you know. You don't have to address it. You don't have to give them the correct answers. So, this is where the entire accusation started. The employee felt they were outed. The manager apologized and said it was an accident. But then the employee went on a crying spree that lasted several months, blaming this manager for all the wrong in their life. Wow, that actually sums up the entire 4-hour video in only a few minutes.
I gotta tell you, if there's one game I'm hype for more than anything else right now, it's Starfield, the hit upcoming game from Bethesda that's going to be critically acclaimed and get top review scores, whether it's good or not, which is how you know it's gonna be good. You could say I've got Star Fever!
Again, I made it pretty clear during our initial private conversation that I needed this to be casual and within my control. Elphaba reveals my new work photo to the team via sharing her screen, outing me during the last few minutes of our morning scrum. I'm shocked. Those who are participating in the meeting began talking about my new picture after it was revealed. Elphaba ends the morning scrum before I have the opportunity to say anything at all. I was forced to come out via text chat, very awkwardly, and in no way how I had imagined it. I was devastated for the rest of that day.
Oh, I know I'm going to get hate for this, but god damn it. Cry me a river. You were not outed on purpose. They said it popped up and they apologized. What more do you want from them? Accidents fucking happen. Not everything in the world is fully under our control. Sometimes shitty things that we didn't want to happen happens to us in our lives, and we live through it and we deal with it. Imagine thinking you're entitled to control everyone around you. That no one around you can ever make a mistake, and if they do, it's not only just a mistake, it's outright discrimination. Again, you were not forced to come out either. Could have easily played it off, made something up, or ignored it until you were ready. It's a workplace. People talk and spread drama and rumors all day, every day. Most likely, people had already talked about you acting differently or doing whatever. Like, it's a workplace. It's what happens. Any small little thing that you do that is different from your norm, people automatically start making shit up. It's just how it works. It's been at every single workplace that I have ever worked at. All people do is sit around and talk about who is doing what, who's fucking who, and what wrong things everyone else is doing on any given day. It's just workplace drama, and if you can't handle that, then guess what? Maybe it's time to reevaluate your life and grow the fuck up.
After all the delays, the waiting, it feels like Todd Howard's Magnus Anus is at last a real, tangible thing that's actually going to come out. All the video game news sites are talking about it, as it's easily the biggest and most important thing involving Bethesda Softworks that's happened in the past week. I mean, has anything else of note happened? Can't think of anything, no. Just in the past 24 hours, the top games media outlets have been a buzz with Starfield coverage, and since we've been taking a lighter, less depressing, far more apolitical tone on the Jimquisition this year, I thought it'd be edifying to look over this avalanche of hot goss and juicy news to aid me in my goal of demonstrating exactly why Starfield will be the biggest game of a currently undetermined period of time. Let's start with the absolutely wild sales predictions that Microsoft had for Starfield, because not only is it a great indicator of just how massive this game is expected to be, it seriously does feed into a point I've made many times about the often absurdly over-optimistic sales expectations that publishers have for their game.
Well, I, for one, don't at all feel beat over the head by some moral grandstanding Jim is trying to pull off here. Do you? We get it. No one is talking about your precious discrimination story, maybe, just maybe, because it's so bullshit that even games journalists, people outright well known for jumping on stories similar to this without reasonable evidence or proof, don't believe that they could sell it. Like, really, you think that people who made classic bangers like Resident Evil 4 is slightly less sexist now, talking about the RE4 remake and its changes that it did to Ashley and Ada, or Resident Evil 5 is too racist for a remake, because apparently white man killing black zombies bad. Or the people who defended The Last of Us 2, an absolutely awful story-based game, when the original was loved entirely because of the story. And they called everyone who doesn't like The Last of Us 2 bigots because we just hate lesbians. Fucking lesbians. Like, you really think these people are just brushing this under the rug? You think this is a conspiracy where they're just ignoring it because it's Bethesda and Todd Howard? I have a million more examples of this, such as the Gears series actually being an anti-communist / capitalist propaganda piece, depending on which nut job you want to listen to. Or how about the ever-classic stop skill-based fetishization over games like Cuphead or Dark Souls? Oh, wait. You're actually in that camp, aren't you, Jim? But yes, not even games journalists want to make articles about this specific piece. Maybe, just fucking maybe, there's a reason for that. Now, Jim points out here, if you haven't gathered it already, that the media surrounding the game industry is bad, because they apparently don't cover enough topics such as this, despite the plethora of examples I've already given you, and instead they're busy peddling the pro-Starfield propaganda for Todd Howard by saying insane shit like how much Starfield will sell, despite not even having much info about the game out yet. Like, we have a general idea of the game, we have a couple of gameplay clips, but it's supposedly going to be the best-selling game of the decade, basically. Like, wild things like that. Bravo, Jim. You learned that games journalists are shit. Good job. Next.
The kind of expectations that see companies routinely express disappointment in a title selling below expectations when they only sell several bloody million copies. So yeah, Microsoft expected Starfield to sell over 10 million copies, not across all platforms, but on PS5 alone. In a 4-hour video, Leona Farron, a former developer for The Elder Scrolls Online, provided a highly detailed account with receipts detailing a pattern of shockingly transphobic behaviour at Bethesda Softworks. Now, in fairness to Microsoft, a game selling over 10 million copies even on a single platform is far from unheard of. In fact, The Last of Us Part 2, a PS5 exclusive, has indeed shifted 10 mil. Perhaps the more shocking revelation in retrospect is the fact that Microsoft still elected to cancel the PS5 version in spite of its prediction after the Xbox maker acquired Bethesda in 2022. Not quite sure if it's as shocking as, say, holding a trans employee's medical care hostage to pressure her into leaving the company and signing away the possibility of hitting it with a discrimination lawsuit on the way out.
And we're just straight up back to lying. Bethesda did not hold this person's healthcare hostage, for fuck's sakes. They offered to pay for the surgeries outright, entirely, so to completely cover the surgeries. It was a trade-off, despite the fact that they didn't actually do anything wrong. But again, we have the issues of people like you, who are going to sit here and make absolutely wild claims that you do, and badmouth the company for doing something they didn't do. Like, fuck, it's Bethesda. We don't have to go very far for examples of why they're a bad company. What number of Skyrim release are they on again? But no, we aren't going to attack them for real reasons. We're going to just make shit up because it fits the good old Jim's narrative, because you have to be some type of moral fucking crusader. It's pathetic.
I can come back to work tomorrow. I got everything resolved, but I wanted to see what you would want me to do. But I also saw that all my products were shifted onto.
We did a sanity check today because it was the middle. It was the middle of the week. You had said you were going to be out all week, so we needed a plan for that accordingly. Because of things just being a bit kind of sporadic, like of when you're taking time off. For you especially, it's pretty important to get those products hooked up.
No, for fuck's sakes, yes, it is sporadic. I think the only reason you released this video was to gain sympathy points from morons like Jim here, who you knew wouldn't watch the full 4-hour-long video of you crying. Well, I did. I watched the entire thing from start to finish and took notes on it because I knew things like this would come up and be used as an example of trans people are discriminated against in the workplace. Your time off was random. You took time off throughout those months. Yes, it was approved, and it seems like you did put it in advance as you were told to do, at different times for personal or medical issues. What you need to keep in mind is that you're part of a seemingly smaller team, and every member has their own workloads. So you randomly taking a month here, 2 weeks here, a week there, etc., that means the company and team have to divide out your work to others all the time to keep their own workload on pace with what their parent company wants. Sporadic isn't even being used as a bad thing here. They're just being honest with you. It's how a company is successfully ran. They need to be able to see your time off in advance and create a plan to deal with it. Also, a good thing to keep in mind is that the manager had a conversation with you about your workload and possibly lessening it for you, for your own benefit and the benefit of the company. You were in a call with the manager crying and talking about how this job is stressing you out so badly that you are breaking down and not sleeping over it. They offered to lessen your workload while you go through this time period of your life, and you threw a fit about that even. There's no winning with you. You're a classic example of someone who wants to be the victim, and you should be ashamed of yourself. People like you make it so much more difficult to come out as an actual victim. Because now, more and more people will see it as a situation like this, where the person claiming to be a victim is just a whiny cunt who needs to grow up. People like you are making it harder and harder for all other trans people across this country. Because you want to be seen and heard as a sad little victim for your extra sympathy points despite being given every single thing you ever asked for and more. So fuck you and fuck Jim Sterling for parroting this message to further hurt people that actually struggle.
MS believes it can recuperate any potential losses from Starfield's Xbox exclusivity via Game Pass subscriptions and a subsequent increase in Xbox sales. The decision to cut the PS5 out of Starfield's release has been a controversial one, of course, but its developer has since revealed to be a big believer in exclusivity, as it demonstrated when it kept Leona exclusive to her own set of duties away from the rest of the Elder Scrolls Online team. So committed to exclusivity, it made the tools Leona needed to do her job exclusive to her old pre-transition name, consequently locking her out of accounts for months and undermining her ability to perform her duties.
I knew that we would hit on this topic too. Oh no, your work computer system dead names you. Fuck off with this idiotic line of bullshit. Yes, the system was fucked up and didn't work as it was supposed to. Yes, it was hard to change the name and login info in the system, and I agree, it was much more of an issue than it really should have been. However, that's work. Like, I have never seen a system at work that actually works as it's intended to do. I have never had a flawless system to use in any workplace that I've ever worked at ever. They're usually cheaply created and hardly maintained, and the IT people who are usually in charge of them are just lazy fucks that don't actually ever want to deal with any issues ever. It's all duct tape and Band-Aid fixes, always. But this company heard the issues and attempted to fix them several times, up to the point of sending IT to the employee's house, picking up the workstation, and updating and fixing the issue. You really think that the entire company is just so transphobic that they're forcing the system to use the old name just to harass this employee? Could it be more likely that the system is just shit and people in charge of fixing the system are also shit at their jobs? I mean, for the love of fuck, this is just an example of a purely bad work system that needs recreated and work done in general, not discrimination. But of course, go ahead and cry bigotry more for us, Jim. It's honestly music to my ears.
Anyway, back to the big news of the week. The Starfields. These delectable details regarding Starfield came out thanks to the FTC case against Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, another company with a history of prejudiced and discriminatory behaviour towards its employees. What is it with Microsoft and picking up scumbags? They're as bad as me when I've been drinking and desperate in Leeds city centre.
If all I had, it's a new process, so it's not like I'm doing something that comes natural. I'm trying to be innovative constantly.
I can see that, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely part of this position. You are not the only one who's felt like this in the career of this type of position. By no means. Like, some people are built for this. That's how their personality is. Others can do it for 2 to 3 years, and then it's the same thing. It's actually the same type of comments you have. Balance is needed, right? Like, if you are continuing to be on this team, we've got to find balance somehow. If you are overwhelmed with the amount of, doctor's appointments, or if they're asking you to not do something for 3 to 4 hours,
I've just to take the time which is not.
Yes.
Going to affect my career. Yeah, it's
a different position, like a different role. Not that I want you off the team. Like, I chose people to be on this team for a reason. You are always, having to go to the doctors frequently, or they're asking you to not do something for a few hours or whatever, is not good.
Oh, don't you worry, Jim. I saw that bullshit little message in there in the middle of the video clip, and don't you fret. I'll get to your dumbass just in a moment. Let's start with the video clip itself. What is the issue here? This is one of the examples the employee uses as they are dissatisfied with their work, yet they never actually even say that. They talk about your FMLA, your PTO usage, and about the fact you're ignoring doctor's orders to get work done, which is, quote-unquote, not good. What are your complaints here? Again, they're trying to get you to do less work and focus more on your personal medical issues. The manager talks about being burnt out and is totally understanding of being burnt out. They seem to be trying to sympathize with you and understand your problem in order to offer solutions and help you. But you only see this as an attack because you're so victim-based that you can't see something as anything other than being harassed because now you're a trans person. Despite the fact that in all these hours of so-called evidence you provide, not once was you being trans directly brought up by your manager. Your complaints don't seem to hold any weight, and your evidence holds even fucking less. If this is genuinely the best examples you have of discrimination, then I genuinely hope that Bethesda doubles down and turns around and sues your ass for not only claiming these false allegations, but for recording workplace conversations without the consent of the other people. You deserve whatever it is you get hit with, legally speaking. You did this to yourself, and I am sure if that they were to do this, you'd then play the victim even harder. Now, Jim, this person is clearly struggling with work. They openly admit it in conversations with their manager. Might not be entirely in the clips that you have right here, but if you actually sat down and watched the entire video, you would see several examples of this. They talk about being burnt out. They talk about not sleeping for long periods of time or sleeping very little and then getting work done when it is needed. They talk about ignoring doctor's orders to get work done. They ignore their own feelings and issues they're having to get work done. Now, maybe it's just me, but if all these things are true, could it not lead to a decline in work efficiency? At the very least, in an artistic role, could it not lead to a decline in quality? You're going to sit there and tell me none of these caused issues with work performance, and it is all entirely because the company hates trans people? Get a fucking life.
What other important Bethesda stories have been covered this week? Oh, here's one. Fans are concerned that the game's only going to run at 30 frames per second on consoles. If there's one thing that unites the gaming community more than anything else, it's low frame rates. There's nothing more outrageous in gamer circles, not even management outing someone's transition to her co-workers and protesting her right to change her name, insisting she stick with her dead name to avoid the technical issues she'd been having with logging in. I mean, that's trivial compared to a computer game not running at 60 FPS, isn't it? God, I know I'm being sarcastic, but I also know the dwindling percentage of hardcore gamers that still watch me all just nodded in agreement, and it makes me want to be sick into a little bag.
Yeah, well, your moral grandstanding makes me want to be sick, so I suppose we're about even. Jesus, yes, gamers tend to not care that much about the politics behind all the bullshit and care about the products that are being shipped out. Good job, Jim, you caught us. What we want are good games and don't care much about the behind the scenes that isn't our concern. We play games to get away from all the bullshit that we see in the world. Is that so wrong? Is it so wrong to not want to be dragged into political bullshit every single second of every single fucking day? But of course, you're going to make it sound like all gamers are just evil, heartless people, in which my response is simple, Jim. fuck you. You would rather focus on things that didn't actually happen or that aren't actually real. You'd rather focus on moral outrage that you believe everyone should be invested in. To which, again, I say fuck you. Also, yes, 30 FPS in 2023 is fucking unbelievable and unforgivable. And fuck you for acting like it's such a non-issue.
You canceled the team meeting. I told you I was going to come out of the closet the same day of the meeting, and then I was pressured over Slack to quickly find an alternative because everyone had seen my new work photo. This was devastating.
Yes.
I don't know how else to put that.
I don't understand.
The whole thing makes me sick, really. The game industry, I mean, just in general. You know, I'm really trying to avoid this series being the depression fest it turned into a few years ago, following the constant stream of stories outlining abuse and discrimination that seemingly riddles the video games business at every fucking level.
Discrimination at every fucking level? Are you serious? Like, no, that isn't even remotely accurate. If you search hard enough for discrimination, if you search hard enough for bad, evil things, then all you are going to find is evil things. This isn't a complex fucking idea. You're outright focusing on the worst things possible. That's all you want to find. That's all you look for. And then you wonder why all you see is negative. And then you want to sit here and blame everyone else. You want to blame game developers. You want to blame gaming culture. You want to blame games journalists. It seems like the entire world is out to get poor little Jim Sterling. Have you ever thought that, Jim, maybe you're just a fucking piece of shit human being? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever wondered that maybe your personality is awful, that nobody likes you because you're just a fucking piece of shit? That you hate on everything that anybody fucking enjoys because they aren't thinking about the moral and ethical and political connotations of it behind the scenes. Nobody fucking cares. Like, we can't even enjoy a goddamn video game without you coming out to say that everybody who played it is actually almost borderline transphobic, but at the bare minimum, they just don't like trans people enough to not play a video game. Like, fuck you.
I even hit upon a revelation recently. Ever since my video on the historical context of the term JRPG, I've, just not wanted to talk about the usual grim misery of games. Shaking my head in fucking despair every week at layoffs, executives being slimeballs, the corrupt excesses of the economic system, and systemic abuse is not what I want my job to be anymore. This year has seen some of the most fun I've had in years making videos on more varied and interesting subject matter. Like when I looked at the news the other week and saw multiple layoff stories, I felt a pit in my stomach because it felt like I had to go back to the topics that bring me and the audience no joy, back to the videos that are gross and miserable and neither fun nor edifying. I don't want to go back. Of course, people don't want to be laid off either, and their situation is far more serious than some comfy little content creator doing a cry because they gotta do something they don't like on their silly little video series. And trans people don't want to be outed, to have managers glibly speak their dead name and demand its continued use, to be excluded and told their reliability and that their new identity is causing chaos. Oh, and I think you'll find that now that we've dropped all sarcasm, it's time.
Okay, Jim. All right. I will offer you $100 to just point out the parts in which they demanded the use of the person's dead name to continue. I would love to see any examples of that, or examples of actual discrimination, or the fact that the manager outed the person as trans intentionally with malice. I would pay $100 just to see that. Just for you to give me timestamps. Just give me any evidence of that actually fucking happening. Please, I am begging you for it. Actually show any evidence of any of the fucking claims that you're making.
Your focus is everywhere else but on the job.
It's definitely not.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. And you being concerned about creating another chaotic situation, that's not for you to be concerned about. My job is to be here to clear that chaos. And no matter what that means, that's what my job is. It's
Oswald.
job. It's HR. It's IT. It's to unblock you so you can do your job.
One always has to be careful when reporting on allegations, even ones as detailed and backed up as the charges Leona has levelled against Bethesda.
How do you show the clip that you just showed and then go on to say that these claims are really backed up? What world are you fucking living in? This person is struggling with performance at work and blaming it entirely on transphobia without any evidence at all. If that is all that is required for proof, then fuck it. I say Jim is racist. Jim is racist because Jim covers mostly trans-related content but never, ever talks about black trans issues. You don't have to take my word for it. I have tons of evidence. Just look at Jim's video list. Trust me. See how dumb that line of logic is? See how it doesn't show or prove fucking anything at all? This isn't a backed up or detailed story exempling hatred or bigotry. This is a crybaby-ass employee who got let go because their work started to decline, and instead of working with the company, they then tried to use the classic, well, you just hate me because I'm trans card. And they fucking won with it, too. They got a massive company to pay for their surgery out of their own pockets after the employee was nothing but a piece of shit to them. Good job, Jim. Really sticking it to that big, bad, evil Bethesda, aren't you?
Believing victims is the prime directive, but any reporter must still employ their own judgment when a situation involves folks they don't personally know. As we found out last year with the lengthy saga of Helena Taylor and Platinum Games, sometimes a case is more complex than it first appears, and should one choose to pick a side, as I most certainly have in this case, you gotta accept you're sticking your neck out on trust. Having said that, I'll tell you what's made this particular situation utterly compelling. The idea something as simple as a person changing their name could throw Bethesda into anarchy is one of the most believable allegations I've ever heard in my life, because Bethesda is just that bloody incompetent. The company couldn't even handle giving people canvas fucking bags. Of course it tracks that they can't handle the technicalities of a name change. It's the kind of thick-headed, bafflingly stupid display of terminal inability that I've come to expect from a company so thoroughly run by imbeciles I could dedicate an entire video solely to their ineptitude, which I have already done. Obviously. People change names all the time. It's hardly surprising that Bethesda wouldn't know how to deal with it. I mean, Jesus, carpet-munching Christ. What does this company do when someone gets married? Do their computers just explode?
The irony of calling someone else incompetent while simultaneously making a point against yourself is just so good. So yes, Bethesda is entirely incompetent, and we all are very, very painfully aware of that. And it is not at all difficult to believe that something as simple as someone changing their name could cause their system to throw up errors and issues all over the place. So then, wouldn't that actually show that this has absolutely nothing to do with transphobia? If people who get married have the same issues with their old names, would that not give us evidence that there is no malice behind this? Simply incompetence? Doesn't that completely defeat your entire argument that this person was forced to use their dead name? There was no forcing there. There was incompetence. There's a big difference between maliciously and hatefully forcing somebody to use their old name versus somebody who is just incompetent and their computer system is just shit. Isn't there? Imagine making an argument against yourself, then calling someone else incompetent. Honestly, Jim, you are fucking priceless.
The absolute state of that legendarily ineffectual company never ceases to amaze me, despite the consistent demonstration that Bethesda's a complete rectal circus. For sanity's sake, I've tried to keep this video from going too dark. I laid out in my Hogwarts video exactly how fucking terrifying it is to be a trans person right now, and I don't want to put me or you through that again. You know, I really wanted to talk about fucking Exoprimal this week. I have shit to say about it. Instead, we have the fucking ghoulish concept of a company holding somebody's medical care to ransom in order to kick her off the job because they were too fucking stupid to understand simple concepts like name changes or new photo IDs. God, the sheer farce of it would be funny if it wasn't so fucking ghastly. But still, Starfield's publicity machine has kicked into high gear, so expect any of the company's misdeeds to be conveniently swept under the same rug that's covering Activision's abuse of its employees, Ubisoft's protection of sex abusers, the industry's crunch and financial exploitation of disabled people, and sorry, should I just shut up and let you be hyped for Starfield? Okay, sorry, I'll do that.
Oh, exploitation of disabled people. You're talking about neurodivergent people again, aren't you, Jim? You fucking moron. Oh my, it actually hurts. It actually hurts to watch some of your content sometimes. You're just so fucking stupid. It's painful. Like, so anytime that anything that neurodivergent people may be interested in, that is automatically it's just abusing them, I guess. Yeah, you probably should just shut up and let people be hyped for Starfield, because clearly you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because you are a fucking idiot. Hands down, one of the dumbest voices on the internet right now. I genuinely cannot believe that people take anything that you say with any single droplet of seriousness. It's baffling to me. You make shit up so fucking often that I can't believe people come to you to look for any form of truth. You should just shut up and let people be hyped for Starfield, because this issue that you're trying to bring up right now is a non-issue. It doesn't exist. It's not reality.
So in September of 2021, I contacted Bethesda corporate because I felt like the studio's human resources was not taking my issues seriously. I shared with them everything that I shared with you, the recordings, screenshots, everything. They responded by viewing me as a liability that they needed to get rid of. And it was also at this time that I was put under management with Oswald. Thankfully, because under his management, I blew it the fuck up. I wasn't being blocked anymore. And my velocity shot through the roof because I was working for someone who didn't care that I was trans. So I had my surgeries scheduled for March of 2022 and July of 2022. My surgeries were going to come in two parts. I needed to have both surgeries done. I couldn't have the first surgery without the second one. It would have been very unhealthy for me. They would have been leaving screwdrivers in me and shit. They need those back. But like, I mean, it would have been putting my health at risk to have one surgery and not the other. I needed both. But then in January of 2022, I was put under a performance improvement plan because Alphaba was allowed by corporate to do my yearly review. And she gave me straight ones across the board. She said I didn't do my work. She said that I was rude in meetings, that I was made inappropriate comments in public workplace forums. Dozens of vague statements that were criticisms of my work ethic and character.
And yet again, we're going to have like a 5-minute long goddamn cry fest about somebody being held accountable for their work at work. It's baffling. But I would venture to guess, considering I'm somebody who has been in the workforce for a decent amount of time, you don't really make vague statements on a review. And yes, of course, your manager of the time is going to write your fucking review. What kind of a dumbass fucking statement is that? But usually, especially when you're talking about working online from home, they have examples of your work, right? So they could easily link your work and what they're talking about or your inappropriate comments, especially in text chats. They could link those and show evidence to higher ups of you doing exactly that, either having poor work performance or making inappropriate comments. So I really, really doubt, and I love that you're not showing any of that, because I feel like there probably is a good amount of evidence that this person used to cover their own ass, considering the fact that you were already trying to make them out to be some transphobe bigot and trying to, I assume, probably get them fired as well, even though you say that you weren't trying to get them fired. Let's be realistic. You were trying to hide behind the fact that you're trans to avoid not having to do work and to avoid even being fucking questioned about your work performance, right? So I'm not going to say you're above trying to get somebody fired because they won't play along with your fucking game. But I guarantee that this person probably used evidence to support their claims if they're reasonably intelligent, because they know at this point it's now the word of somebody who is a trans person who is claiming that they're being transphobic or they're being discriminated against, than the manager who is apparently being transphobic towards them. Right? So if that person has any level of intelligence, they're going to give evidence of that. I really doubt that they just threw up random vague statements and was like, this is happening, trust me. But I love that you don't show your work review at all, which I'm sure you probably still have access to. You probably screenshot it or however, like have the email still. I'm sure you still have access to it in some way. But it doesn't fit your narrative, does it?
All of which were lies. But corporate saw me as a liability. So that didn't matter. It was a way to get rid of me. In the same conversation, I was pulled into a group meeting with human resources that included Zenimax Online Studios Human Resources and Bethesda Corporate's Human Resources. And they extended to me a one-time offer wherein if I agreed to resign and release them from any potential discrimination lawsuit, they would pay for my COBRA premiums. They were holding my surgeries hostage to coerce me into resigning. I refused.
The video, as I mentioned, is 4 hours long. There was no way I could do justice to it in a Jimquisition length video, but it paints a very clear picture. If you recognize the patterns, if you recognize the signs, if you've seen this before or you've heard enough of the stories. Now, to a lot of cis people, I fully understand that to some of them, what they've seen in this video, even what some of them may see in the entire 4 hours, would have them shrug and say they don't see the problem. But I've experienced it myself in this job, and almost every trans person I know has experienced it. The sudden change in perception, the sudden change in attitude, the sudden change with regards to your apparent performance.
This is probably my favorite part of the entire video, where Jim openly admits there is no obvious discrimination or transphobia here. You only see it if you are trans, and you can understand the hidden meanings and the underlying patterns. You need to have experienced transphobia in order to identify it. What a fucking joke. So basically, you can make any claim of transphobia you want, and no one can question it because they haven't experienced it. Not everyone has experienced transphobia, but I'd be willing to say at least most have experienced work. Most have experienced being hated by a manager at work. Most can tell the difference between a normal workplace drama, and normal workplace bullshit that you deal with, and the abnormal. Something that would be obvious to most, that something seems a bit off or just a little weird. So this entire argument is absolute bullshit. We don't have to experience the exact form of discrimination to be able to see a normal workplace compared to an abnormal workplace. Most people are able to make that distinction simply from working at jobs in their past. You can tell someone is enduring normal workplace bullshit and something that is far beyond what one would assume is normal in that position. Don't belittle everyone watching and act as if you're some translator for the unknown here, Jim. Most watching are intelligent enough to be able to know what it is that they're watching. It doesn't seem like discrimination with the evidence provided because it isn't fucking discrimination. No matter how desperately you want it to be, it isn't. This is an employee claiming victim to win sympathy points. That's all. And you fucking fell for it.
This happens so much. And as I say, I've experienced it myself. I've talked about it on this show. The people that suddenly thought I was being too rude in my game reviews. The people that saw me do things that I've done for the entirety of the 10-year career I've had in these videos. They've seen me do things and they've now taken them as signs that I'm having some sort of mental breakdown. We know what this looks like. And to some cis people, to a lot of them, because they've never experienced it and they've never had cause to see the patterns, it's invisible to them. It's just invisible. But that pattern is there. And I like to think that a lot of you, if you actually do see what's going on, if you actually do watch that video, or hopefully this video's done enough, because I think the most telling part of all of this was that one clip I posted where Leona tried to explain why outing her the way she was outed had devastated her, and that manager just said, "I don't understand." And that's a real problem because people don't understand. And because they don't see that there's an issue, they don't believe there's an issue there. And you know what? Some of this isn't necessarily transphobic born of hatred. It's not hateful transphobia. It's seeing someone change and assuming that that impacts their convenience and their comfort, and the fact that they have to change, see someone differently, treat someone differently when they really don't. It makes me think, and I've thought about this for a while, it makes me think about the way, say, vegans are treated.
You did not just compare it to fucking vegans. No, you know why vegans are treated poorly? It's because vegans shove the fact that they're vegan in everybody's faces nonstop. That's why the entire meme is the fact that once you are vegan, you cannot shut the fuck up about being vegan. You did not just sit here and try and say that trans people are treated the same way as vegans are treated, when in reality, all they want is for people to just leave them alone and act like they're the same old person still. No, literally, all vegans do is complain about the fact that other people are not vegans, or the fact that other people should be vegans. They want to throw their lifestyle in your face and how much better they are than you for being vegan. Fuck off with your bullshit ass fucking examples that are nowhere even close to being based in fucking reality. But all this is more and more of you making up bullshit excuses to justify that this is discrimination when it's not. You continue to say, if only you could see the patterns, if only you had experienced this before, you'd be able to understand where we're coming from and see what we see. You just can't yet because you haven't experienced transphobia, so we have to translate it for you. We have to open up your eyes and show you that there really is problems. No. Again, just no. We don't have to sit here and be shown what an abnormal and normal working place is. Most people can identify the two. We can identify that there is a normal workplace and then see when that is not the case, when given enough evidence. The problem is that there is no evidence to actually back up the claim of any type of discrimination. This seems like a pretty cut case of an employee being a piece of shit employee, having a lot of problems with work performance, and then trying to use the fact that they're trans as a scapegoat, and then trying to blame the company that they're transphobic and bigoted. Meanwhile, in reality, they're just trying to run their fucking company successfully, and they can't do that with some whiny little fucking annoyance in the side, just constantly causing issues, wanting to have their same old workload that they normally have, but at the same time not able to achieve it, or achieving it but with lower quality. And they can't get rid of this person because now they are already claiming that this is because the company is transphobic and the manager is transphobic and the manager hates them for being a trans person. So they can't even just get rid of the person and find a new person to fill those shoes. No, now they just have to fucking deal with it so that they don't look like the bad guys. And they deal with it for seemingly 2 fucking years and then are still painted as the fucking bad guy in the end because this person comes out with a 4-hour-long expose of all bullshit illegally recorded clips that don't actually show anything, but then morons like you then immediately back this person up. Why? Not because they're in the right, not because what they fucking showed you was actual discrimination or transphobia. It's because you're trans and you want to get clicks. You want to get fucking views. You support this fucking movement and all you want is more drama through it so that you generate more clicks. You generate more fucking views. You are a fucking parasite to the trans movement. To sit here and act like you actually do anything for anybody in that classification is it's such fucking bullshit to me. I see right through your fucking masquerade of you're here for them. No, you're here for you. You want clicks, you want views, you want money, you want notoriety. You want to be the moral crusader that stands up against evil, bigoted corporations, when in reality, you just are completely living in an alternate universe that over half the time that you make videos like this is complete bullshit if you just dig past surface level. It's either you are doing this completely knowingly or you're just an absolutely awful fucking journalist. Which is it, Jim?
Because they're treated like they're whiny and an inconvenience, and they complain and they force their beliefs onto other people when most of the ones I know don't do that. Instead, they're treated as an inconvenience because people that aren't vegan have to think about vegan options, have to think about offering something a little bit different than what they're used to. So they project that. They project their lack of understanding and they project their issue with a change onto someone else. And I noticed this so many years ago now. It's not just like something like veganism, it extends to allergies. I don't know if you've seen media portrayals of people with allergies as whiny and impositions and an inconvenience. Now, I'm deathly allergic to nuts. I know, ironic. And I feel awkward about that sometimes, self-conscious about that. I don't like to bring it up because I don't want to be an inconvenience. But that's what you're seen as if you're different, if you require a little more sensitivity, a little more understanding. You're an inconvenient, you're trouble, you're chaos, you're a liability. You're all the things that Zenimax and Bethesda said Leona was. And if you've never been treated like an inconvenience, you may never see the pattern. But it is there. It's as evident as the fact you have to thank God for me. One thing I neglected to make clear, and Phoenix actually pointed it out while they were watching me do the video, is that any one situation that Leona has mentioned and that other trans people have mentioned in their lives, any one isolated situation can be taken as innocuous. It's the sum of the parts, it's the pattern, it's how all of these little things coalesce. It's not just one thing, it's never just one thing. Or even a few. Lots of little things that add up to a big thing, which, by the way, is how you can actually treat marginalised people well. Lots of little things, little acceptances. You do not have to rearrange your life. Just treating someone with kindness and understanding seems like it seems like an obvious thing to say. But people go overboard. With the way they treat marginalised people because they think that's what we expect. And it's not really. We want what everybody else wants. A simple fucking life. Starfield.
Except that's not actually what you want, is it, Jim? Like, I don't know why you say these things when they're so painfully obviously not true. You do want to be treated above everybody else. You've made it very clear in not only other videos, but this video alone. You expect that just because this person is trans that they're able to get away with not performing to what they should be doing. They don't have to perform to the same level that they were performing at before coming out as trans. Suddenly, they're untouchable. You can't possibly have any problem with them. Otherwise, you're clearly just a transphobic bigot. You dare not fucking fire them, because then you're discriminating against them and firing them simply because they're trans, not because of the fact that, I don't know, they aren't leading with the same quality level that they had or the same performance levels that they had, or they're constantly causing issues in the workplace, that they're constantly causing drama, that they're going to HR every other fucking day to complain about their manager because they're trying to keep them to a standard of work performance. They're going to HR and then complaining and saying, well, this person's just transphobic and hateful, and I just can't work for them anymore. I can't work with them. I need to be transferred somewhere else. But meanwhile, not even the other fucking areas of this company want this person, not because they're trans. It's because their work fucking sucks, and all they do is complain and fucking cry. The company bent over backwards for this person. If you watch the entire 4 hours of this fucking video, you will see the fact that this company did everything they possibly could have fucking done to help this person. And all they did was complain about it. It was never good enough. It was never enough. Ever. Once they gave into that first fucking demand, this person, then they tried to go all the way with it. All they wanted was to see how much further they could fucking take it. And it's fucking disgusting, because like I have said so many other times, this type of issue, especially when big names, or I should say larger names like yourself, backs this thing up, all that this does is hurt actual victims of things like discrimination. All it does is hurt real victims that are actually out there fucking struggling. Because now the general fucking public is going to see videos like this where they are clearly not being discriminated against, but we're going to claim they are anyway. And that's going to cause the general public to see things like this and be like, I don't really care. Like, obviously, this is just a trend. Obviously, people are just trying to play the victim to play the fucking victim, because they see more and more examples of issues like this. Because people like you, again, I don't know whether you do it out of intention or you're just that bad of a fucking journalist. Because the entire video was there for you to watch. All you had to do was it took me like, I think 2.5 hours, because I have it sped up, to watch this entire video. It probably took me a little longer considering the fact that I was actually taking notes in preparation for this video, and I'm sure several others down the line where I will have to fucking argue with people because they're too incompetent to do their fucking jobs and do their fucking research before they bother to get on the mic and make a fucking video about this topic, like yourself. But it's not that difficult. If I can fucking do it as a random no-name, then why the fuck can't you? Why can't you be held to the same fucking standard that I hold myself as somebody who has no voice, as somebody who has no real audience? I can do this work, I can put in this effort and do this level of research, but you fucking can't? Are you joking me? At this point, it doesn't even matter whether you're doing it with intent and malice. At this point, if it's your level of incompetence is causing it to be hateful and malicious, like, fuck, it's not that hard to do this job. It's not that hard to do the research to make sure that what you're saying is actually accurate. Because like I said, now all you're doing is hurting those who actually are victims, who actually are struggling out there with things like this. All you've done is cause them to hurt more. But I don't think you actually care. I don't think that actually worries or bothers you in the slightest. So long as Jim Sterling keeps getting clicks, keeps drumming up that controversy to keep getting those views. That's all you fucking care about, isn't it, Jim? But hopefully everybody else enjoyed this video. As always, I hope you like, subscribe, follow on other platforms that I'm on, such as Twitch, Twitter, Kick, TikTok, all the good stuff. And I will see you all in the next one.